Amanda. This is our guest editor, Betsy Boyd. You can join the conversations about Jewish entrepreneurs here Tuesday at 12:30. Feel free to comment and ask us questions in the field below. Betsy, welcome.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're here to talk about J Moore's very exciting upcoming issue, JBiz. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what was the impetus for the project.
Certainly. Well, I'm a writer based in Baltimore, a freelance writer and a professor at the University of Baltimore. The impetus for the project was to do a special issue of J Moore, which is a magazine I've admired since it launched.
Oh, thank you.
The 13th issue, the special issue, is, as you said, all about entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. To me, as a professor and a writer, the word entrepreneur is very interesting because if you look it up in the dictionary, risk, the noun, the verb risk, is front and center. And so I wanted to write about Jewish business people who are entrepreneurial, who have taken risks, who are doing creative things. So to that end, I covered quite a few.
Yeah, no, that's great. We have a ton of stories coming out. It's also a word that I can't say well at all, so this is a good exercise for me. I'm just going to say it enough.
It at the end.
We should have a drinking game every time Amanda stumbles on entrepreneur.
There
you go. That one was a little good. It was like it had a little French accent in there.
I thought it sounded good.
So anyway, JBiz will be out on stands in early June. Let's go over some of the topics and subjects that are covered, because I know the stories are a little bit sort of divided by genre in a way, loosely, possibly.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many kinds of entrepreneurs. So the cover story is all about family businesses. And we also have side stories that cover family businesses. So lots and lots of those robust features. In the cover story, the Atmans.
Nice.
Of course,
everyone knows the Atmans, right?
The Deli.
It's a huge family.
The Future Care. Huge family.
Huge family, and they've done a lot.
Done so much.
Right.
Yeah. And the Frumans of National Lumber are really interesting.
Right. They are interesting.
And then Bond Distributing is actually run by Bob Footlick's daughters, which I think is very cool. Mm-hmm. You know, several of the stories are very female power driven.
Right. I know. I love the Guardrail
I love the Guardrail story. That is one of my top favorite stories.
I think it's one of my favorites.
That was a story that came out of the blue. It was pitched to us by a freelancer who's amazing. And, you know, he said, let me tell the story of this mother who bought a guardrail business when she was an empty nester.
Yeah.
When, you know, men in the trade were really not even talking to her, she had the guts to buy this business, and then people started to take her seriously. She then willed it. Well, she's alive and well, but she did give it to her daughter, who, Marnie, is now running the show. These are guardrails. These are the things on the highway that prevent you from going over the side.
I know.
Right?
It's guardrails, which doesn't seem sexy on the surface, but like the way they're running this company, and it's so cool. And in the story, she talks about having to go to loan officers and say what the business is, and then they took a look at her, saw that she was a woman, and they were like, not giving you any money.
But she wasn't going to stand for it, so things changed, you know, fairly quickly.
Yeah. So, and that's Guardrail Company. Do you know the name of the company?
Well, they're the Hoffmans.
Right. But
and
it's like Guardrails something.
Let me check on that. I don't want to give away everything, Amanda.
I know. And I'm sorry I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's like a very obvious name, like Guardrails something.
Yeah, to me, you know, Marnie Hoffman is really the story because she is a fairly young woman who is now the powerhouse behind the guardrail business. And can you imagine if your mother said, I'm going to give you my guardrail business? My reaction would be like, what are guardrails again?
Why do we have to sell those? Don't they just grow naturally on the highway? It's like,
aren't they plants?
Yeah, they just show up there.
Anyway,
it's very interesting.
They're a very cool duo. And then, you know, there's such a wide range of stories. So we have stories about builders like Xander Homes. Mm-hmm. Alexander Trachtman grew up in Moldova. He came here when he was a teenager, and he'd always dreamed of building houses. He would ride his bike around his family's neighborhood and look at houses under construction. That was his dream. Now he's a major builder, very, very respected. And then we've also got stories about building up the city, about revitalization.
Right. So, with the upcoming, our new neighbors, the Union whatever collective. Thank you.
Which is awesome. You know, it's so many proprietors under one roof doing business. Go there, get a beer, get a pizza, get anything you feel like eating. And it's just a fun new kind of space. When we were growing up, there was the mall. Yeah. Now you have these collective food court businesses that are awesome. And then we do have a big story about Seawall. Remington, hello, which has changed radically.
The only thing that ever was in Remington through college for me was Paper Moon. That was it. If you went to Remington, you went for Paper Moon. Period.
Me too.
Yeah.
But the wait was so long. We love it.
I love
now
it
you've
there.
got some options.
No, I love
it
too. Like,
it's great food.
The whole art house thing and parts and labor and everything else that's going on
Remington
over there
is so reinvented. There's also a great story about Brian Gibbons, who worked with Erwin Greenberg to completely change Reister's down the road. They
amazing.
Made it a very cool area.
Right.
But it wasn't at one point. I'm not a Baltimore native, but this is what I hear.
No, everything, this city has changed drastically, I would say, within 10 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if you guys are listening, what you're hearing is that this issue is basically going to be a who's who of Jewish business in Baltimore.
Right.
I mean, we've got everyone. We've got dozens of stories. So if you just got here, you're watching your Need to Know JBiz edition with our guest editor, Betsy Boyd. So as a part of this special issue, you're going to be taking over the Need to Know. Some of you may have noticed that Alan's not sitting here. Sorry. Hi, Alan. We love you anyway.
I'm sure he's watching.
He's maybe, possibly. He's probably watching. So Betsy's going to take over the Need to Know on Facebook Live. Tell us about what you're going to have on the show and what their stories are about.
Yeah, so we've got several great guests lined up.
So next week?
Next week is Alan Hirsch.
No, next week is Jonathan Wax.
Oh, next week is Jonathan Wax. That's right. Then it's Alan Hirsch.
Yes.
Then it's Laura Wexler.
Yes, correct.
Jonathan Wax is a canna business attorney. So he specializes
Is that a new term? Did we just have that term
it's
happen?
A new term.
Canna business.
Yeah, his firm is throwing it
love
around.
that.
It's a great word.
It's so good. And actually, the cannabis thing is, like, if you're not involved in some way, you're missing the boat big time because it's
the biggest growing business.
It's about to
in
pop
Maryland,
off everywhere. I mean, it's
probably
huge.
in the United States.
It's huge.
Certainly, yeah. So there are so many regulatory concerns. His firm knows all about that. So we'll be talking pot on a business level.
Talking pot. So you definitely want to tune in on May 15th to talk some pot with Jonathan Wax.
And also, just business. I mean, a lot of people are wanting to leap into that business. So I think he'll be very informative. How do you do it?
Yeah.
What are the first steps? They advise across the board at his firm.
No, that's great. So if you get your questions ready, because you want to get in on this. So get your questions ready and ask Jonathan next week. So then on the 22nd, you have Alan Hirsch.
Yeah, Alan Hirsch. Everyone's darling. He was one of the founders of City Paper. He is one of the founders of City Paper, and he is a co-owner of Donna's, which is beloved.
Yep.
He's a great example of an entrepreneur who follows his creative heart, and he wants to do something new. He'll be at Donna's, but he wants to reinvent, and he'll give us a hint about that.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what's next for him. And then May 29th, Laura Wexler, who almost everyone in town knows already because of her time with style and because of Stoop storytelling.
Yeah.
So she's super popular. But why are we writing about her?
Because we have a technology section of the magazine, and she, as a writer, is now creating virtual reality scripts. It's the wave of the future. Remember when everybody wanted a VHS? Soon we're all going to get the mask, so we can have these virtual reality experiences. And she's written this amazing script with her writing partner. They went to Sundance. She'll talk about that.
That's going to be great. Okay, so those are the guests we've got lined up. They're going to have to work on the technology about, like, my equilibrium. Because I get sick whenever I put any of those glasses on. Even, like, the 3D glasses.
I know. I
can't do
get
it.
extreme vertigo.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wonder,
they need to fix that.
Am I going back to a Walkman as I age?
Oh, I did find my Game Boy. I've been packing a lot lately, and I found my original Game Boy. I love it. It still works. The batteries work.
Right.
It's fun. I like that kind of technology. But anyway, no, it's super cool what everyone's doing.
Yeah.
So we do. So just to recap, we do have technology stories. We've got foodie stories, which are super exciting.
The foodie stories are such a nice breather to some of the think pieces. Like Chaim Silverberg makes lamb bacon.
He's awesome.
He's obsessed with kosher food. He makes movies about kosher food, and he's a total hoot. He's very cool. And then the Leffenfeld brothers of La Cuchara are also in the issue. They're right next door, and they share a recipe. Mm-hmm. So you definitely want to tune in online to get web exclusive content
Right.
and some of the extra perks that
Right.
you will find there.
And we're going to try to have both of those stories featured on Richard Gorelick's show this week in Baltimore Eating. So look for that in coming weeks. We're still trying to schedule. We got scheduling issues, but we're working on it.
By the way, Richard Gorelick wrote most of the food stories, and they're very fun.
Yes, he's good at that stuff. So, okay, foodie, technology, we've got some, like, cybersecurity stuff, right?
Right, within the technology, you have this whole primer on how to create a safe space for your cyber needs.
Very important.
I didn't know much about it, but again, we got a writer who did, and it's very important information.
Very
for
important.
now.
The Russians are coming. So
I hear they're already here. Just look around Facebook.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And then we've got the building and construction stories, which are fantastic, and a lot of it is about the future of Baltimore and where is Baltimore headed, which is great.
And then there's also a large feature about artists, Jewish artists in town.
Who are actually making a living.
Making a living
as
to
artists.
a degree. Not everyone is making their whole living as an artist, but they are at least all of them supplementing their income. So it's a little bit of an economic story, but you get to see the work that they do, the furniture that they make, the collage they're putting together. And, I think that's very exciting. My dad is a painter, so I'm always interested in featuring visual art whenever possible.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's important. All of this is connected, and we're so excited to be highlighting all of this. And again, the issue is going to be out in early June on stands, but we have started releasing the stories online now, and you can go to jmoreliving.com/JBiz, B-I-Z, and we're going to release a few every week. So definitely watch there. Before we go, can you talk a little bit about our networking event?
Yeah, well, that is coming soon. Remind me of the date.
It's June 13th.
Yeah.
It's going to be 5 to 8:30 at Die House in Mount Washington, which is another really cool space.
I'm dying to go to Die House. It's going to be fun.
And it's catered by Linwoods.
Yeah. So there will be a great panel, and I don't want to give away all the
don't
goodies
give everything
on the panel
away
right now because that is, you need to tune in. You can't get all the scoop today, but it's going to be a big bash. And it's a great way just to learn more live about the same topics we're talking about in the magazine.
Yes.
So we really hope everyone can attend that.
And it's a great opportunity to network with
huge
fellow
opportunity to
entrepreneurs.
network. Speaking of that, if you are a Jewish business owner, an artist, what have you, there are many kinds of entrepreneurs. Please do get in touch on Facebook and let us know what you're doing, because the entrepreneur is always a subject in JMOR, not just in the entrepreneurial issue. It's something that's an ongoing.
We often have business-related stories as well, yes. Okay, so you can find out more about our event and get tickets for that event if you go to jmoreliving.com/jbiztickets. Sorry, let me try that again. jmoreliving.com/jbiztix, T-I-X. Sorry about that. All right. Is there anything you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
Well, we got to talk about guardrails, which was my top.
That's the best. I'm glad we got that checked off, because I love that story. I'm not going to post that one for a while because I want to
make them wait.
Save it.
There is one fun tidbit about the family business. Almost every family reported that the way to make your business last for 3 generations is to make sure that you're treating employees well. You cannot show radical favoritism to the people in the family. And it was a hard lesson for some of them to learn, but they agreed that, it's central. Everyone in the business is a family. Mm-hmm. Not just, the kids and the cousins, but everybody. And I think that's part of why these businesses that we're highlighting have really made it.
Yeah.
Hard work, too, but a lot of integrity across the board.
Yeah, I think 2 things really stand out in our issue with all these stories is we have a good focus on women entrepreneurs, which I'm happy that's there. Thank you for representing.
I love the Jody Berg story.
Yes.
She's such a PR queen, and her husband's in PR as well. And she talks about her marriage. She talks about how she makes things work.
Right. And then the other thing is that there's a lot in Baltimore specifically, maybe, I don't know, but there's a ton of just these legacy businesses, and they're all working together. And we've got the Elkins, we've got so that kind of thing is those are the 2 takeaways for me anyway about this special issue. All right, so you're going to be back next week. I won't. You've been watching your Need to Know JBiz edition with myself and guest editor Betsy Boyd. You can read JBiz stories online at jmoreliving.com/jbiz, and we'll be posting new stories there every week for the next month or so. Betsy will be back next week with her special guest, cannabis lawyer. What'd you call it? Cannabis? Cannabis lawyer Jonathan Wachs. Think about your questions now. Join the conversation Tuesdays at 12:30. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you. I'll drink more vodka now.
Okay, good.
It was fun.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.